Welcome all my friends to the one true original story of the Batman. And believe me when I say this, you have never even seen this story before, so get ready for a blast. In a secret suburban hideout, the underworld mafia is planning a ring of counterfeit operations in the city. Suddenly, out of the blue, the Dark Knight, Batman, crashes in and takes down the thugs one by one. Meanwhile, gangster Chucky Saul attempts to make his getaway on wheels from a high-rise parking garage. He is suddenly confronted by a shadowy figure in a cape, which he assumes to be Batman. However, it seems he is a different costumed figure, with a deep, echoing voice, a ghostly mask, and a vicious blade on the end of one arm. A frightened Saul tries to run down the new threat, but his target disappears in a cloud of smoke. Saul instead smashes through the wall of the parking structure and crashes into an adjoining building, dead on impact. Witnesses note Batman's arrival on the scene, and most jump to the conclusion that he has finally let one of his normally non-lethal pursuits go too far. Batman is still a mysterious and frightening figure to most of the public. Fueling the anti-Bat bias is Councilman Arthur Reeves, a vocal opponent of Batman's methods and a major thorn in the side of Commissioner James Gordon. Reeves goes over Gordon's head to recruit police officers who share his distaste for Batman's activities. Later, Reeves is contacted by his old friend, Andrea Beaumont, who is just arriving in Gotham City. He asks Andrea whether she is planning on looking up her old friend, Bruce Wayne. Dropping the in-flight magazine, which she had been nostalgically looking at, she dismisses his claims. Bruce Wayne is hosting a grand dinner dance for a charity event, surrounded by ladies following his every move. Surprisingly, he is being screamed at by another lady who has been neglected by Bruce Wayne recently. Okay. Now, that does not surprise me at all. Typical billionaire playboy. Arthur Reeves offers his handkerchief for Bruce to wipe his face, but aims a cheeky dig at him as well, with the mentioning of Andrea Beaumont. Bruce scoffs at Arthur and goes to a private place as memories come crashing down on him. Long ago, while visiting his parents' grave, a young Bruce Wayne overhears a younger Andrea visiting her mother's, talking to her as though she is still alive. The two strike up a conversation and sparks immediately fly between the two. Bruce has spent the last 15 years of his life training himself to fight injustice and is now very close to beginning the fight. That night he dons a ski mask and confronts a group of thieves hijacking a truck of goods. When he yells at them to surrender, they just attack him. Bruce's martial arts training and advanced equipment make short work of the thugs, and he is elated to see that his training has paid off. Then the remaining thug starts up the truck, and a simple job becomes a high-speed chase on the highway, ending in a crash that nearly kills Bruce and his quarry. The next morning, Bruce is recuperating and relentlessly practicing his jiu-jitsu on the lawn. He tells Alfred that the plan has gotten off to a good start, but he needs a way of striking fear into his enemies. Andrea visits, tired of waiting for Bruce to call. To his surprise, she shows him a few moves of her own, and they end up in a tangle on the ground. Laughing, he kisses her, and Alfred turns away discreetly. Bruce Wayne is called back to the present by Alfred. Gangster Buzz Bronski, an old associate of Chucky Saul's, visits his grave at night and drops a desultory wreath by the headstone. However, Bronski is then confronted by the same mysterious figure and chased through the graveyard, yelling for his bodyguards. Bronski falls into an open grave, and the statue above it is tipped inside, crushing him to death. His bodyguards arrive to see his remains and a figure in a cape disappearing over the next rise, leading them to believe that the figure is Batman, and he has killed Buzz. The next day, headlines confirm eyewitness accounts that Batman has turned to killing. Arthur Reeves then demands to have him captured, but Commissioner Gordon, knowing that Batman would never commit murder, tells Reeves that he will have no part in his crusade to catch him. Reeves orchestrates a trap with the police for Batman using the bat signal, but Batman, who had been listening to Reeves and Gordon's argument, does not turn up, much to Reeves's amusement, as these further fuels his belief of Batman's guilt. Batman investigates the spot where Bronski was murdered, but then takes a brief moment to visit his parents' grave. Just then, he overhears a familiar voice and turns a corner to find Andrea speaking at her mother's grave. She turns around, just as shocked as Batman is. He runs off, but Andrea notices the grave he was standing nearby. She realizes who the man behind the cowl truly is. While spying on Reeves and Andrea having dinner, Batman has another flashback. Talk about the past being painful, guys. Even the Batman can't escape the continuous heartbreaks. Bruce and Andrea have been dating for a while now, and they tour the Gotham World's Fair together. Afterward, Andrea takes him to meet her father, Carl Beaumont, a high-powered Gotham businessman. Bruce receives Carl's stamp of approval, but their meeting is crashed by shady mobster Salvatore Valestra. Excusing themselves, Bruce and Andrea see a street merchant being harassed by a motorcycle gang. Bruce tells Andrea to stay put and leaps into the fray. With his training, he easily knocks out two of the gang, but, catching sight of Andrea's terrified expression, he becomes distracted for a crucial second and takes a blow to the chest that knocks him to the ground, allowing the gang to escape with the merchant's money box. That evening, Bruce paces Wayne Manor in anger and agitation. He has realized that he must choose between Andrea or his vow to fight crime. During a rainstorm, he goes to his parents' grave and begs to be released from his vow. When he made it, he never expected that he could find happiness with someone else. No answers come from his parents' tomb, but Andrea, who knows him very well by now, appears next to him and gives him the answer he needs. Valestra, now old and failing in health, panics on seeing the headlines about Saul and Bronski's murders, and meets Reeves in private, asking him to confirm if Batman is hitting our people. Reeves does confirm it, but hastily excuses himself, feeling he doesn't need Valestra anymore. While investigating possible connections between Saul and Bronski, Batman finds that they were partners in several joint ventures, all dummy corporations run by Valestra. Finding his past resurfacing, Batman examines old photos of the three gangsters, one of which includes Carl Beaumont. On the cliff overlooking the sea behind Wayne Manor, Bruce proposes to Andrea. She is astonished. She never really believed that Bruce would choose her over the plan, but Bruce declares that whatever plan he has for his life, she is now part of it. They embrace and kiss, but are interrupted by a swarm of bats erupting from a hole in the ground. Bruce drops Andrea off at her home, where she notices other cars parked outside. It appears odd, as her father usually wouldn't see clients this late. She goes inside to tell her father the good news. Bruce and Valestra's chauffeur, standing watch outside, catch a quick glimpse of each other before he leaves. The next morning, Bruce climbs up from exploring the cave under the manor, which is much more extensive than he'd thought. Alfred is waiting, and regretfully gives Bruce a message, Andrea, returning his ring, saying she has to leave and telling him to forget her. Heartbroken, and having nothing left to hold him back, Bruce throws himself back into the plan. He adopts a new, terrifying appearance as Batman. As Bruce dons the mask of Batman for the first time, Alfred serves as the only witness to this transformation and remarks in both terror and astonishment. Thus, Batman's war on crime truly begins. This was the true beginning of Batman, the Dark Knight. Seeing no other choice, Valestra goes alone to meet the Joker, with whom he has some past history. Valestra offers to hire him to kill Batman. Joker appears not to be interested, but Valestra angrily reminds him that his hands are just as dirty as theirs, and that Batman will surely come for him next. Joker loses his temper briefly, then laughs, assuring Valestra that no one will ever hurt him. Andrea comes to her hotel room after another dinner out with Arthur and sends him back after a quick kiss. Out of nowhere, Batman confronts her in the hotel room, demanding to know what she knows about the gangster murders. She claims ignorance, then coldly orders him out. But as soon as he's gone, she collapses onto her bed, sobbing uncontrollably. Later that night, the shadowy vigilante enters Valestra's mansion to execute him, only to find he is too late. Valestra has been poisoned by Joker's venom. Sitting on his lap is a surveillance camera and a radio from which comes Joker's voice. Realizing the danger, the vigilante leaps from the building's window just as the package in Valestra's lap explodes. Batman confronts the vigilante, chasing him across several rooftops, but is then confronted by a police task force with orders to arrest him. As the vigilante vanishes in a cloud of smoke, Batman flees and is pursued into a construction site by a tactical squad under Harvey Bullock's command. Seeing Batman above, one overeager officer empties his submachine gun at the building, hitting a propane tank and igniting an explosion that knocks Batman senseless. He is forced to buy time by removing his cape and cowl and sending them flying up toward the police helicopter, distracting the task force while he escapes to the ground floor. Now unmasked and severely dazed by the explosion, he stumbles to the end of an alley with the police right behind him and no means of escape until Andrea appears in her car and tells him to get in. Bruce jumps in and she speeds away, leaving the police behind. At Wayne Manor, Andrea tells him what really happened the last night they saw each other. So once again, let's go back. Andrea returned home to tell her father the good news of Bruce proposing to her, only to find him in the clutches of three mobsters, Saul, Bronski, and Valestra. Carl begs for one more chance, saying that he can return their money no later than the next day. Valestra agrees, but as soon as they are gone, Carl tells Andrea they must leave town immediately. Andrea pleads that she and Bruce have just become engaged, but Carl tells her that they will both be dead by the next day if they don't escape. Carl swears that he will make things right again somehow. Andrea fills in the rest of the story. She and Carl escaped to Europe, and he was eventually able to pay back the gangsters' money, with interest, but they still wanted revenge. Bruce reaches the obvious conclusion, and soon realizing that Andrea had no choice but to leave him, he remembers his love for her, and the two spend the night together. The next morning, Bruce and Andrea agree to try and make their relationship work, despite Bruce's coming showdown with Carl. He then sees her off. Despite Alfred's enthusiasm for his master, Bruce is unsure whether he can still make the same choice he made 10 years before, despite admitting he still loves Andrea. But while he is looking over the photo of Carl Beaumont and the three gangsters, he realizes something. Valestra's chauffeur standing in the background is actually the Joker before his transformation, likely making him the killer's next target. In his office, Arthur Reeves fumes about the police's failure to catch Batman. He is suddenly confronted in secret by the Joker, who reveals that he's seen the real killer and reminds Reeves about his own history with the mobsters. Flustered, Reeves denies it, but then Andrea telephones his office to cancel their lunch date. Needing no further proof, Joker stabs Reeves with a needle, injecting him with a slow-acting version of his Joker toxin. Reeves is rushed to the hospital, laughing hysterically. A doctor sedates him, warning him that he must stay calm to let the toxin run its course. But as soon as he's alone, Batman confronts him, demanding to know what the Joker wanted. Reeves confesses Carl Beaumont refused his pleas for financial assistance. In his desperation, Reeves sold Beaumont's whereabouts to the mob, being told that they just wanted their embezzled money returned. Remembering it all causes Reeves to start laughing all over again as Batman leaves in disgust, and the doctors rush in to try and settle him down. Realizing the truth, Batman rushes to Andrea's hotel room to confront her, but she is gone. Then the Joker calls the room, telling her he's sending her a gift. Batman looks out the window to see a toy plane flying towards the room, carrying a bomb. He manages to detonate it before it gets inside, but remembers where he once saw a toy plane like that. Outside the Joker's hideout, in the ruins of the World of the Future Fair, Andrea remembers what brought her to this point. Andrea returns home from grocery shopping to see Valestra's chauffeur emerging from the house. Frightened and worried, she anxiously told him that her father already paid Valestra, but he just silently walks past her. She rushes inside and screams in agony upon finding her father dead, while the chauffeur takes advantage of the moment to pick an apple out of Andrea's dropped grocery bag and eat it. Inside his hideout, the Joker is confronted by the killer while eating a bolo sausage sliced by his cooking animatronic Hazel. But he's already managed to deduce the vigilante's identity as Andrea herself, and the two fight. Andrea appears to have the upper hand, until the Joker escapes and lures her into the path of a gigantic aircraft engine, which sucks her off her feet and nearly kills her until Batman arrives in a bat cycle and crashes it into the engine rotors, destroying it, much to the Joker's annoyance. Batman confronts Andrea. He now knows her father is dead, and she has been killing his tormentors, one by one in revenge for killing him. She actually arrived in Gotham earlier to kill Chucky Soul and used her late father as a scapegoat if necessary. Andrea says she has nothing left except her revenge on the men who ruined their lives. Batman pleads with her to leave and let him apprehend Joker his way. Elsewhere, Joker starts a countdown to blow up the entire complex. Batman's pursuit of Joker takes him through the old exhibitions, and Joker distracts him with a set of booby traps, long enough to don a jetpack and fly into the sky. Batman manages to jump onto his back and yank him off course, causing them both to crash and leaving them exhausted, with Batman even admitting he's willing to risk dying with the Joker if it means stopping him from escaping. Then, Andrea reappears and grabs hold of Joker. Batman pleads with her to run as the fairground is wired to explode, but she refuses and bids him goodbye. The bombs explode, and the entire complex begins to burn. The Joker laughs maniacally as Andrea disappears with him in a cloud of smoke. The ground underneath Batman collapses and he falls into a sewer line, which carries him away from the inferno. In the Batcave, Bruce laments that he was unable to save Andrea. Sadly, Alfred tells him that Andrea was beyond redemption. Then Bruce notices a glint in the distance and finds a locket that belonged to Andrea wedged in a nook in the cave wall. Inside is a picture of her and Bruce. Desolate, Bruce realizes that she must still be alive, but is once again lost to him, now and forever. On a cruise ship out at sea, one of the passengers notices Andrea standing alone at the rail. He starts to introduce himself, but notices her rather a cold greeting and mourning veil. She wishes to be left alone. Batman stands on a rooftop overlooking the city, as he has done countless times before. Whether by fate or by design, it seems he cannot escape his purpose. Seeing the bat signal light up the sky again, he throws off his reverie and swings off into the night. Thank you for watching Second Look. Like, comment, share, and subscribe for more awesome videos. Have a nice day.